I'm Reed, this is Crowland Publishing, and this is a lore video, and we're just doing 5 adventure ideas based around tarot cards. Working on another big project that'll be up in a few days. Tarot cards. They immediately suggest, something mystical is happening. They're a powerful signifier for occultism as itself, the supernatural. So they're a really, really effective prop and tool in horror gaming, even science fiction gaming, but definitely fantasy gaming. They don't need to be specifically tarot cards as we understand them today. They don't need to be a Rider-Waite or whatever, whatever deck you want to choose. But the notion of coming in and entering the ritual space and having the tarot card reading either to discover your future, to discover something about yourself, or to be warned of the as above, so below events of the gods. This is a way of communing with the very real, very powerful supernatural forces. Alright, a very, very potted history of tarot cards. If you're an expert, don't interrupt. You can go to Wikipedia, but just for the purposes of this video, playing cards come to Europe after the Crusades. In and of itself, gameable idea. A new form of magic is entering society. They're used for gambling games, but because this is back in the day, where anything would blow your peasant mind, tarot cards and cards beautifully drawn, beautifully decorated, often with astrological symbols, which is where the occult connections begin to kick in, decorate the cards. So they're totemic and beautiful objects in and of themselves. Then around the 19th century, the Tarot of Marseille is invented, and card decks and tarot decks become a lot more standardized, for want of a better word. Basically, this is the first modern Tarot of Marseille, with minor arcana, the trumps we know, the suits we know, and this is when they begin to become used primarily as a divination object. Then in 1910, Rider-Waite deck is created that has ties with the very, very famous occult society, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and that's where we're at today. Tarot cards enter into fantasy lore, and they enter into D&D specifically through the deck of many things. So the deck of many things is just a deck of cards. You draw it, and some campaign-changing event is probably likely to happen. People die, people go to other planes, things like that. It's a big deal. It's an artifact. But I think it introduces and sets the stage for using tarot cards in other ways within your D&D campaign. You might have a party meet where they're all getting a tarot card read. Perhaps they work for a tarot card reader. Perhaps they belong to a kind of Rom-style culture, and the tarot cards are important or a central part of their lives. Or the tarot cards are very, very scriptural. The clerics consider it a holy rite. Perhaps make connections with the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Use it as a sort of ritual magical device. You could use the tarot cards as a world-building technique. Change the suits or the trumps to what is important within the game. Say that you want to have dragons, undead, abominations, and celestials as important within the game. Those are the 4 suits. You could use the major arcana to represent powerful NPCs within the game. Instead of the Emperor, you have the Black Overlord. And if the Emperor comes up in a tarot card reading, well, your players will know that the Black Overlord, who lives in the south and is always up to, shenanigans and hijinks of the crushing overlord kind, is up to his old tricks. 4 of Mind Flayers. Everyone knows that 4 is the card of building. What are the Mind Flayers building? So, a very, very useful way to introduce elements into the campaign. Also, don't be afraid to actually bring out the tarot deck and do a physical reading at the table for your players. It's exciting. You get to bring out the candles. You get to do a bit of theatricality. Stack the deck beforehand so that you know what is coming. Or, just lay it out. Whatever kind of tarot card spread you want to do. Do it like 12 places of this clock. Do like a traditional crown and cover. All that sort of business. Very easy to find out. Very easy to learn how to read tarot cards. And it's a cool theatrical set piece. Your players will like it. You will have a good time doing it. Anyway, 5 adventure ideas. You are summoned by a high-level cleric who wants to do a reading. And as the reading comes out, a high-level threat becomes apparent. A King of Swords might be a dangerous warrior is coming. Page of Cups might be a bard who's sowing seeds. The Empress might be a powerful rival cleric who's coming in. The Star might be a bad guy on the cusp of achieving godhood. But you can base the campaign around a single tarot image. You find or are awarded or take a tarot deck, but unfortunately, something is very, very glad that you have that tarot deck, something that wants to talk to whoever is the querent, whoever is the reader, whichever you think is more important. Every time you lay out the cards in a certain way, something whispers to you, I know how to make what you want come true. I can see the future. And it begins to whisper to you at first, just, I know. And later, go here, free me, and I can make it all come true. Maybe it's a fiend, maybe it's a celestial, maybe it's something worse. But when you read the tarot, it learns more about you and what you want. Number 3. Turns out the court cards and the arcana all actually represent gods. And if you have a high enough skill in the tarot reading, which you might, DM might make a law skill or whatever, you begin to learn about the secret games of the gods and the archdemons and the archfey. And if you want to do a campaign in which dealing with the gods and the great powers are important, this would be a fantastic way, What is the god of hate up to? You do a tarot card spread and the DM will give you hints and to suggest how you can anticipate and confront the various powers in the universe. So the tarot card becomes a central tool for understanding and negotiating the events of the campaign. You do a reading and perhaps you are dragged into an allegorical world, or it starts a chain of events within the campaign world itself in which you and your players move along with the Fool in his journey through the major arcana. It's a theory that essentially the major arcana is a kind of a comic book, and we are watching the Fool travel through and deal with the powers of the magician, the horrible wisdom of the hanged man, the rebirth that comes with the death card. Maybe the Fool is actually going to be an important figure in the campaign later on. Maybe he's on his way to becoming a celestial. Maybe he's on his way to becoming a fiend. But your players can get 3 or 4 sessions out of helping this person, and you as a DM need to plan out some events. You meet the magician, you meet the chariot, you meet temperance. What do they mean? What is the allegory for, and how is your campaign world going to be different once the Fool, if the Fool makes it, to the end of the journey? I stole that from an episode of Xena, the best TV show ever. You get a tarot deck, and the major arcana are actual NPCs that you have met or heard about. The king, the baron, the empress, the high priestess, the witch. And you, if you have this tarot deck and you learn how to read it properly, you might have influence over them. Perhaps it works as a kind of perpetual charm person spell. Perhaps you always have an advantage if you have understood and successfully made a tarot card reading roll. This is a very, very powerful deck, especially in a campaign where you want to influence politics. And people will find out that you have the tarot deck and they're going to want to take it, because if you've got the tarot deck and you can, I invert the card, now the king hates what the king used to love, well, you can control a nation. Anyway, that's 5 tarot deck ideas. I hope some of these were useful to you. I'm Reed. This is Crowland. Tell your friends, baby. Subscribe. See you next time.